be more accessible in Essex County, a way for those with disabilities to get out and be safe. A live look outside right now, 34 with the humidex in Windsor, but a chance of rain this holiday weekend. Colette Kennedy with a detailed look tonight. I'm Chris Hensing. Thanks for joining us. The University of Windsor is reviewing its sexual misconduct policies and procedures after a court ruled it failed to properly resolve a sexual assault complaint brought forward by a student last year. That student is protected under a publication ban. She says the decision brings some relief, but calls the process devastating.
It was not easy for me to be here.
Jane Doe says the system she trusted failed her.
The reaction you would see from administration, they didn't take me seriously.
Doe filed a complaint to the University of Windsor in January 2020, later telling an investigator she did not consent to sexual intercourse with another student. An administrator ruled on balance of probabilities the other student did not sexually assault Doe. The other student did not speak to an investigator or submit evidence. Doe was granted an appeal, in part because the initial ruling was, quote, unreasonable or unsupportable on the evidence. An adjudicator deferred a decision until a criminal trial, expected to start this summer, finished.
I felt like, my dignity was already stolen and whatever, some power I had left in me, they took that away from me as well.
Doe took the decision to Superior Court, a panel of judges ruling that deferring her complaint to criminal court was unlawful. The ruling was also critical of the investigation, saying the investigator's report focused on how a sexual assault victim would act, made no reference to Doe's statement there was no consent, and didn't understand where the burden of proof for consent lies.
I think what we saw here was the university shirking its responsibility under the law to properly address and adjudicate this allegation of sexual assault.
An expert who trains people to handle these complaints says Doe was treated completely unfair.
We're supposed to have people who are informed about the nature of trauma, the way that trauma presents, so that people get procedural justice in these forums. None of that happened.
The university's sexual misconduct response and prevention coordinator worries this may stop others from making complaints.
And I do think that we are an institution that cares very much about wanting to get this right. Now, wanting to get it right is not sufficient.
I hope they will be on the right path now. I had to do this for other students who want to come forward.
The University of Windsor says it will enhance training for investigators and will re-adjudicate Doe's case as the court requested. A ceasefire has been declared by Israel after 11 days of fighting in the Gaza Strip. The news coming earlier this afternoon after heavy U.S. pressure. The bombing and the number of people who have died has caught the attention of the world, including here in Windsor. CBC's Katerina Georgieva joins us now live. Katerina, there was a protest last night in downtown Windsor. What happened?
That's right, Chris. Hundreds of people gathered last night, the same place last night here behind me, in solidarity with Palestinians. And similar protests happened over the weekend, both here and in other parts of the country. But some people say that this one felt different. There was a police presence, dozens of tickets were issued, and now there's outrage being directed at Windsor police, with some in the Muslim community saying that they feel like they've been unfairly targeted.
Voices chanting in support of Palestinians, members of the community coming together to voice their frustrations and calling on the Canadian government to do more to protect Palestinians.
The Arab community in Windsor is so big and so concerned about this because this is one of the worst humanitarian situations in the world. Reason why we're so desperate to make our voice heard.
But as the event went on, police started handing out tickets. In a tweet issued today, police say an organizer was charged under the Reopening Ontario Act and given a noise bylaw ticket. Plus, more than 25 other notices were handed out for traffic offenses, like no seatbelt, stunt driving, and noise violations.
If this was any other event, if it was, the no mask protest, it wouldn't be easy to identify those people, or it wouldn't be easy to even go after them. But us, it seems like we're easily targeted.
In my mind, it was clearly something discriminatory. Even before this incident, we have a very bad relationship with the Windsor police, like the Palestinian activists and the Palestinian community in general. It was actually very intimidating, the level of police that were there, and they were very openly irritated and upset throughout the whole thing.
As for the traffic offenses and the noise charges, Kanafani says the whole point of the protest is to make noise. The issue inspired a local paralegal to offer her help, free aid for anyone charged.
I live downtown, so I'm pretty familiar with the sorts of protests that go on down here and the police presence that is present at both. And I have noticed that at the anti-mask sort of rallies that have been occurring, you don't really hear about people being ticketed or, the police presence being that strong during that time. And so for me, the discrepancy was kind of unfair. I feel like when people are out there, protesting religious rights, which they have the complete and total ability to do, those should be protected.
Katerina, what are police saying today?
Well, Chris, police say that they responded to this event the same way that they would any other kind of protest, but that in this case, the key difference here are the traffic offenses. They said that drivers violated a number of public safety issues. They said that they issued a number of bylaw offenses with regards to excessive honking, which police say isn't necessary in a peaceful protest. And they say that these kinds of traffic issues haven't really come up in other protests like the anti-mask or the anti-lockdown protests. And Chris, I did try to reach out to somebody who received a ticket last night, but I have not yet heard back. Chris.
Thanks, Katerina. CBC's Katerina Georgieva live tonight. And more on the situation between Israeli and Palestinian militants. Intense international pressure and military considerations have pushed both sides to stop the 11 days of fighting, but attacks continued right up to the time of that announcement. Freelance reporter Iris Mackler has the latest from Jerusalem.
Israeli airstrikes in the Gaza Strip targeted Hamas militants. But this Palestinian teenager was injured when her home was hit by an Israeli missile. What happened is we were in the sitting room. The missile hit us. There was a lot of smoke and we didn't see anything. There were relentless volleys of rocket fire from Gaza into Israel. One scored a direct hit on this building in the town of Sderot, near the Gaza border. Ludmila rushed to the apartment's reinforced room, but her husband was injured. The family say they're suspicious of a ceasefire if it doesn't lead to a real truce and to a reduction in the year-round rocket fire on Israel's Gaza border. We had so many ceasefires like that, and it always happens again. I don't think this ceasefire will help in anything, because we're here in the south, and the Israeli community surrounding Gaza, we're the main targets. We get the low-level missile fire all year. European foreign ministers from Germany, the Czech Republic and Slovakia visited Israel and were taken to sites damaged by Hamas rockets. In the US, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called for an end to hostilities.
My heart goes out today to the victims and their loved ones. The fighting must stop immediately. I appeal to all parties to cease hostilities now. And I reiterate my call on all sides for an immediate ceasefire.
In past Gaza conflicts, a ceasefire was followed by both sides claiming victory before burying their dead, repairing destroyed infrastructure and waiting for the next round. Civilians on both sides hope for something better this time. For CBC News, I'm Iris Mackler in Jerusalem.
Ontario has finally unveiled what reopening will look like in this province. The much-anticipated roadmap revealed today. Part of it will allow outdoor activities to resume this weekend, like tennis and golf, but other details were unveiled in a phased reopening plan. Farah Morelli has more.
Empty patios, deserted and locked up sports facilities, shuttered businesses. 6 weeks into the province-wide lockdown, they're the all-too-familiar sights. Today, a plan to change that.
You want certainty right now. You want a plan that you can count on.
The long-awaited roadmap to reopening was unveiled by provincial officials.
We're taking a gradual and phased approach based on hitting vaccination targets.
Here's what we know about the phased approach. The first step will kick in after 60% of adults are vaccinated with 1 dose. Outdoor gatherings of up to 10 people, outdoor dining with 4 people, and non-essential retail will open. Step 2 will be when 70% are vaccinated, 20% with 2 doses. Outdoor activities with larger sizes will be allowed, same with personal care services and small indoor gatherings. The third step, when 70 to 80% are vaccinated with one dose, 25% fully vaccinated. That will see indoor dining reopening, larger indoor events, and increased capacity for non-essential retail.
We expect to enter step 1 of the roadmap around the week of June 14th. Over the coming weeks, our government will continue to work with businesses and sector partners.
It is not the glimmer of hope that so many small businesses are absolutely desperate to see right now.
For many businesses eager to open beyond just curbside pickup, it's a plan that's simply too slow, with too little detail.
Still, there's only a tentative date to open in mid-June. Meanwhile, other jurisdictions across the continent with way higher COVID rates have never shut down retail in the first place. Manitoba, Alberta has kept retail open. British Columbia didn't close retailers for a single day.
I do think this is a bit too slow. I think that we need to be confident of the vaccinations that we have, that we know looking at other parts of the world.
This infectious disease physician says he welcomes the plan, but says he hopes it'll be continually reassessed.
Of course, I'm not saying that we have the ACC open and full of people right now, but I do think that as soon as we start to see hospitalizations continue to drop, hospitals decompressing, I actually hope that we might be able to start with stage 1 earlier.
Today, the Minister of Health said it's possible that June 14th date could be moved up, but today's plan aims to give some idea of the road ahead. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
We've heard from businesses in Windsor, Essex that have said they're already struggling and now having to wait at least another month to reopen.
Will be too long a wait. If let's say there is a business which is into personal care, those businesses won't be able to reopen till July the 5th because they come in step 2 of reopening. And if there's a gym, then they have to wait till July the 26th. And that's a long way from now. So for these businesses, it is going to be very challenging to survive.
Splash pads will open in phase 1 of the province's new rollout. 60% of Ontario needs to have a first shot before that can happen. Some parents want it to open sooner. Others say the risk outweighs the reward.
I feel like the splash pads, and even like the city pool should be open. It's gonna start getting hot here. These kids, like you can tell today, she's pretty warm. I feel there's gonna be distancing them with the kids. So if they can go to school and they can do all that stuff, they should have the splash pads here open for us.
Like it's droplet contaminants for COVID, right? So I would definitely think that they should probably hold off just until more people are vaccinated.
It's so nice for him to get out and enjoy the weather, the nature, and then just have available water that he can run through and cool himself off. We don't have a pool again, and his only option is a bath right now. So
yes, I think they should be. I think there should be relief for children. I think there should be relief for pretty much everybody when they need it, especially when it's hot. But I just don't know that the risk outweighs the benefit.
And a look now at the COVID-19 situation in Windsor, Essex. The health unit reporting 38 new cases this morning. 348 active cases in the region. About half are variants of concern. As of this morning, 62.6% of adults in Windsor, Essex have at least one dose of a vaccine. And the Public Health Agency of Canada now saying that if you plan to cross the border for a vaccine, you will need to quarantine when you return.
Recognizing that we are still in a pandemic, there are still some border restrictions and controls in place. So from a public health perspective, our position hasn't changed. We continue to advocate to getting the vaccine in Windsor, Essex for our people. Even though we know that there are vaccine supply available, we are working through all our channels, all our federal government partners, provincial government partners to bring the vaccine to Windsor, Essex.
And the Essex County Accessibility Advisory Committee wants trails that everyone can use. And they're looking for the public's help to make that happen. Its initiative is called We Check the Trails, asking trail users to point out potential problematic areas along greenway trails. The finding a way to make them safe will be a big part of this as well. So we hit the trail with a community member this afternoon to find out more.
I have a very rare form of muscular dystrophy that affects all 650 of my skeletal muscles. It also affects my breathing. So with having respiratory issues, COVID is especially dangerous for me. So we have to be very, very, very careful. Because COVID-19 can be so dangerous for some people, like myself, I've been home for quite a while and I have to stay away from people and that kind of thing. So coming out onto a trail where I don't have to be amongst crowds of people. I've got the fresh air, it's safe, and it's good for my mental health. COVID-19 has affected people with disabilities in many ways. One of the biggest ways is isolation, not being able to see their friends, not being able to even get out to their doctor's appointments and the regular things that they do on a daily basis that make their lives what they are. IRCA does a great job of keeping their trails maintained. However, when you look through the lens of disability, oftentimes things can be caught that just might not have been by whoever was maintaining the trails. So we want to make sure that it's safe and enjoyable for everyone, including people with disabilities. Okay, so here's an excellent example of something that could be very dangerous. The road drops off here and goes down quite a ways. So if I didn't see it, I could tip my scooter and fall down here. The possible solutions for this could be that they build the road up here and possibly even put a railing. The initiative is a project where we would like to engage the community to come out and walk on the IRCA trail system and look for accessibility barriers. IRCA has over 80 kilometers of trail systems. These trails, should be barrier-free so that anyone can access them and enjoy them.
Now that program will officially start on National Accessibility Week, which starts May 30th. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh made a virtual stop in Windsor, Essex today, focusing on affordable housing. Locally, more than 5,000 people are waitlisted for affordable housing, with both rent and housing prices continuing to soar. It's also a struggle for those living at home who are hoping to find their own place.
As a recent graduate, I made the decision to work part-time to focus on my studies, but that meant that I would not be able to afford my own place. The idea of renting seems unlikely, and buying a home has never even crossed my mind. So I live at home with my parents, especially due to having high student loan debts that I've accumulated over the years.
Now, she's currently employed as a social worker, saying she sees firsthand the struggles people experiencing homelessness have when they're trying to find housing. Singh says he wants to invest $14 billion over 10 years to build 500,000 affordable units across the country.
I think a lot of Southwestern Ontario would hit that priority needs. If you look at the housing costs all across the corridor along the 401, whether it's London or Windsor, Essex, in the GTA, these are areas that are hard hit. So there would certainly be areas that need to be supported.
Now, he says the NDP is also looking at incentives like waiving the GST if private investors or builders include affordable units in their new builds. The Sandwich Teen Action Group is getting $78,000 in federal and provincial money to fix a leaky roof.
I'm thankful. We're passionate of what we do here because we see the lives that have changed. Not only basketball, but currently we have probably, at the top of my head, about 7 of our alumni that are in law enforcement.
Now, the federal government contributed more than half that money through the Investing in Canada plan, the province and STAG making up the rest. Work on the roof over the gymnasium and the east end of the building started April 1st. It's now finished. Take a live look outside here as we see a few folks on those bird scooters enjoying the riverside view right now. Colette Kennedy with a full look at the forecast after the break. Colette Kennedy joins us with a look at the forecast. A lot of pressure now because I'm sure you know this. You're excited about it. The golf course is opening up. People got a holiday weekend. People are wanting to get out there.
Yeah, it's time to tee it up. That's right. If you can get a tee time,
yeah.
because that is one of the first challenges. And then the next one will be trying to organize the weather around it, because we do have some pop-up showers, thunderstorms in the forecast. But let me see if I can help you with that in terms of the timing. Also, just kind of we shouldn't be, but we're already into that time of year where we're talking about humidex values and how it feels. And we're in this corridor. So you're supposed to only feel some discomfort. Really, the way to kind of moderate things or make yourself more comfortable, try and give yourself breaks, especially in the heat of the day, and lots of hydration too. Kind of take it easy with your exercise earlier and later if you can do it, because we are low 30s, but hey, it is only May and we're already experiencing this. The current temperature is still holding at the day's high, so 31 degrees here, and to the Windsor area, and 28 over towards Chatham-Kent, and to the north, yes, there's some wet weather. Not experiencing that here. And into Friday, we should stay dry, and it stays to the north as well. I can't say there won't be a stray shower going through Sarnia. These are just kind of pop-ups. They'll dissipate very rapidly. More significant stuff stays well to the north. But I do want to show you now, as I wind this through Saturday into the afternoon hours, that's when we do get into a chance, kind of that corridor between about 2:30 and 6. That's when you maybe do not want to be on the course, because there is also the risk that we could have an isolated thunderstorm in there too. So obviously with lightning, they're not going to allow you to be out there as well. Here you go. When we go into Sunday, yeah, there will even be a few little light showers there as a cold front's going to go through. It just brings our temperatures down, but the humidity as well down a little bit into Monday. Tonight, look at these overnight lows. It feels weird calling them that when they're in the high teens. And tomorrow, shall we do it? Yeah, we might get there up to 32 degrees and still hot into the weekend until you get that relief into Monday there, Chris.
No, still pretty wild to see those 30s there, but nice as well after that, bit of rainy and gray spring we've been enjoying.
Yeah, and now here it is. Feels like full-on summer, right?
Right back at it. Thanks for this, Colette.
You're welcome.
BBC with blowback today from a controversial 1995 interview with Princess Diana. More when we return. The BBC is under fire over a controversial 1995 interview with Princess Diana. In the interview, she shared damning secrets about her marriage to Prince Charles shortly before they agreed to divorce.
You think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
An inquiry determined interviewer Martin Bashir acted deceitfully to source that interview and acted inappropriately. Today's report says the BBC covered up facts about how Bashir obtained the interview and fell short of its usual high standards. The BBC set up the investigation following allegations from Diana's brother Charles Spencer that forged documents were used to trick him to introduce his sister to the journalist. Late this afternoon, Prince William responded with strong words. He says his mother was failed not just by a rogue reporter, but by leaders at the BBC who looked the other way. The prince says the deceitful way in which the BBC obtained the interview influenced what she said. He believes it contributed to the worsening of his parents' relationship and his mother's fears, paranoia, and isolation in her final years. And you could call it a modern-day Atlantis emerging from the deep. We bring you a first look in more than 70 years at the remains of a tiny village in northern Italy. Now, this was once home to some 900 residents. Then it was flooded in 1950 to make way for a hydroelectric plant. Until recently, the only thing visible above the water was the top of that church bell tower. But the village ruins reemerged when the lake was temporarily drained so that repairs could be made to the reservoir site. It's given locals and tourists a unique chance to explore the village. And that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Stay tuned for Habs versus Leafs, Game 1 of their NHL playoff series right here on CBC. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.